This Saturday is UFC Fight Night London, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, and this is going to be my full card predictions, and thank you to the MMA gods. We actually have a decent fight night card. What do you know? When the UFC has to go to an arena and they have to sell tickets to actual people, they actually put on a decent fight night card. I'm really looking forward to this card. Main event, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, was originally supposed to be Leon Edwards versus Jack Della Maddalena, but because Shavkat was unable to fight Belal Muhammad for the title at UFC 315, Jack Della Maddalena got the opportunity, and they put in Sean Brady against Leon Edwards in the main event on roughly a month's notice, so not crazy short notice. Then the co-main event, Jan Błachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg, which is a very important fight for the light heavyweight division. Featured fight on the card, Kevin Holland versus Gunnar Nelson. Kevin Holland has the ultimate Dana White privilege, but we'll talk about all those fights in this video. Do me a favor, guys. If you enjoy these prediction videos, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's jump right into it. First fight of the night, we have Kutateladze versus Kauê Fernandes. Guram, I feel like historically has been a bit overrated, even by myself included. I thought he was a lot better than he actually is. His last fight had a very, very competitive fight with Jordan Vucenic. And, lost the first round, got hurt in the first round, came back, battled back, used his grappling in the third round, and mixed in the grappling in the second round as well to win a 29-28 decision. Before that, lost to Elves Brenner. That was an outright war and eventually got finished. Before that, draw or split decision loss to Damir Ismagulov. Wins before that, Mateusz Gamrot. I thought he lost that fight. Even he thought he lost that fight. And then that's his entire UFC run where he's been inactive. That's 4.5 years he's had 4 fights. So basically a fight a year. Then you have Kauê Fernandes, who's a guy that came over from LFA, lost to Mark Jacasey via split decision, got out-grappled in that fight, but it did okay on the feet. And then since then, defeated Muhammad Yahya and TKO'd him, which let's be real now, Muhammad Yahya doesn't even belong in the UFC. And Kauê Fernandes is really slick on the feet, but his grappling isn't that great. His takedown defense isn't that great. He's decently well-rounded, but there's definitely a hole in his game with his takedown defense. And Guram Kutateladze has grappling that he can mix in, but he's also a very good striker as well, and that's why I favor Guram Kutateladze in this fight. I just think he can mix it up on the feet. I think he can mix in the grappling like he did against Jordan Vucenic in his last fight, where basically his grappling won him the fight. He's primarily a kickboxer, though. It's not like he's going to go out there and get starched out cold in the first minute against Kauê Fernandes. It could happen, but I don't find that very likely. So what I think is going to happen is going to be a very competitive fight on the feet. I think Guram's going to mix in the clinch, mix in the grappling, mix in the takedowns, and with some close rounds, I think Guram is going to steal it with control time and do some damage with some ground and pound on the ground. I'm going to pick Guram Kutateladze via decision. I don't think it's a guarantee, though. I'm looking at Tapology now. Tapology has me looking at their odds. -425 favorite on Tapology, and 92% is picking Kutateladze on Tapology. I think that's a little bit crazy, but I'm pretty confident in Guram. I think he has a well-rounded skill set, and I think he gets it done over Kauê Fernandes. Next fight on the card, we have Nathan Fletcher versus Kauê Loughran, which I'm not even sure I'm saying it correctly. Listen, Kauê Loughran is a Family Dollar Michael Chandler. Okay, he's not as exciting, probably not as dumb, but we haven't seen enough of him. But he just squats down and loads up on his right hand. He's super predictable. His last fight, lost to Jake Hadley. I'm not even that high on Jake Hadley, and Jake Hadley outstruck him. And Kauê Loughran just kind of wade forward and looked for that big right hand. Fight before that, beat Angel Pacheco. Is that really that great of a win? Fight before that, lost to Taylor Lapulus. Had some moments in that fight, but he's just too one-dimensional. He's just looking for the power shot. He'll occasionally mix in the grappling. And I think Nathan Fletcher, I at least think he's a well-rounded guy who has decent volume. He's coming off a win. I believe this was a UFC debut. Yeah, he was off the Ultimate Fighter against Zigomatis Ramaska, where it was actually a back-and-forth fight before he eventually found the arm triangle. I just think that Loughran, he's too low output. He relies too much on his power. He's too predictable. He's literally just like Chandler. He squats down and looks for the right hand. He's at a 2-inch reach disadvantage, an inch height disadvantage. They're both relatively young. They're both relatively fast. And I think Fletcher honestly could have the advantage in the grappling as well. I think probably the grappling could probably cancel each other out. I don't see either having like a crazy advantage in the grappling. And I think Kauê definitely has the power advantage. But Nathan Fletcher, he had a very competitive fight with Raska and came out on top and was able to find the submission, where I'm looking at Loughran's fight and I'm like, Jake Hadley's outstriking you. Jake Hadley isn't that good. I'm looking at the fight against Angel Pacheco. Okay, you got to win there, but it's not that great of a win. Fight before that, Taylor Lapulus. Taylor Lapulus I'm actually decently high on. But again, every single fight's the same story. He's just wading in and squatting down and looking for the right hand. And then eventually he'll get desperate and start marching forward. If you have decent footwork and decent movement and decent volume, you just strike Kauê and Loughran from the outside. And that's what I'm picking Nathan Fletcher to get it done. I'm going to pick him to get it done via decision. I don't think he's going to go out there and starch him out cold. Loughran's never been finished. He looks like he has a jaw of granite, to be quite honest. I mean, look how square this jaw is. And I think Nathan Fletcher probably wins a decently competitive but fairly obvious decision. I'm going Nathan Fletcher to get it done. Probably 30-27 decision win. Next fight on the card, we have, we have Shauna Bannon versus Puja Tomar. Or Tumar. I don't even remember how do you pronounce her name. Let's be real. This is super low-level women's MMA, which is always a coin toss, essentially. This is not an easy fight to pick whatsoever. Shauna Bannon, split decision against Alice Ardeline, which I don't even think that's how you pronounce her last name, but I don't remember. Lost to Bruno Brazil. And then before that, she's fighting girls who are 6-4, 1-2, and 3-0. So relatively inexperienced. I mean, this level wasn't even in the UFC 5 years ago. Then you have Puja Tumar, who's coming off a split decision win against Rayanne Amanda, where she tried to act like a savage in the fight. She was screaming and throwing haymakers. I think this fight could go either way. I flipped back and forth on this prediction. I'm still flipping back and forth on this prediction. Both primarily strikers. Tumar has a little bit more power. Not that I'm saying she's going to KO you. She has some KOs, but it's against like horrible opposition. 6-8, 2-1, 0-0, or not even 0-0. She didn't finish her. I don't know. Look, here's what it comes down to. I think Rayanne Amanda is better than Shauna Bannon, and Puja Tumar beat her, even though I thought that fight could have went to Rayanne Amanda. I don't remember exactly how I had it scored. I think I may even scored it for Rayanne. But I think she's better than Shauna Bannon. I think she can land the more damaging shots. There'll be more visual damage. And in a women's MMA fight where there's not a lot of like big moments where, outside of last week where there's first round KOs back to back in women's MMA, I just see Tomar landing more damage. But I could see Shauna Bannon just winning this fight, just out voluming her footwork, because Tumar's footwork doesn't look that good. She kind of just plots forward. And I'm not high on either one of these women. I don't think either one is particularly great. I'm just going to pick Tumar to get it done via decision, landing the more damaging shots. Who knows? Maybe she'll get a first round KO, but I'm picking her to get it done over Shauna Bannon. Next fight on the card, we have Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andrey Pulyaev. Honestly, they're very similar. I just watched Pulyaev's Dana White's Contender Series fight. He's a slick striker. Was able to pretty much dominate the guy on the feet, has really good kicks, has decent footwork, decent mobility, decent arsenal of attack. But I don't think he's all that good. I mean, he was getting clipped up by Liam Anderson, and Liam Anderson on Dana White's Contender Series, guy is 6-2, was also able to get him to the ground, was able to out-grapple him a little bit. Christian Leroy Duncan, he has good striking, he has good grappling. He's coming off a loss against Gregory Rodriguez. Gregory Rodriguez is a top 15 guy who almost finished Jared Cannonier. And Leroy Duncan will mix in the clinch. He'll mix in the grappling. And he also has a very good striking, very good elusiveness, in and out movement on the feet. And I just don't see Pulyaev, if I'm pronouncing that right, I just don't see him winning this fight. I think Christian Leroy Duncan has him beat everywhere. I think, we've seen Christian Leroy Duncan in the clinch land nasty elbows. We've seen him work in the grappling against Claudio Barrio, took him down, beat him up, ground and pound TKO. We've seen him look dominant in the clinch against Denis Tululan, which I know that isn't that impressive, but Tululan's okay. You know, he's bottom of the barrel, but Andrey Pulyaev is bottom of the barrel as well. So I'm going to go Christian Leroy Duncan to get it done. I just think he's fought way better opposition. Armin Petrosian, Gregory Rodriguez. I know the guys that he's beaten aren't that great. You know, his UFC debut against Dusko Todorovic, it was an injury, but he looked good up until the injury. I'm just not picking him to get it done. I'm not picking Pulyaev to get it done over Christian Leroy Duncan, who I think is the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. And I think Duncan can be competitive with him on the feet. I think the striking of Christian Leroy Duncan is really, really solid. He's really elusive. And it's not like Pulyaev has unbelievable power. And also, if Duncan is like losing on the feet, which I don't think would be by much, if it were to happen, he can mix in the grappling, he can shoot takedowns, he can mix in the clinch, and he can do damage from those positions. So I'm picking Christian Leroy Duncan. I'm going to say he gets it done via second round TKO. Probably ground and pound TKO is what I'm going to pick for Christian Leroy Duncan. Next fight on the card, we have Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. If this is an NPC heavyweight versus NPC heavyweight, I mean, that's the definition of this fight. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Heavyweight's so garbage. It really is. I mean, Marcin Tybura coming off a win over Renato Diniz, who's a straight-up scrub. Before that, lost to Sergey Spivak. Before that, beat Tai Tuivasa, who's a straight-up scrub, but people hyped him up because he spits in his shoe and drinks alcohol out of it. Before that, lost to Tom Aspinall, no shame in that. Mick Parkin's 10-0. Now, he's beating Lucas Dresky, who's a scrub. He's beating Mohamed Usman, who's a scrub. He's beating Caio Machado, who's a scrub. He's beating Jamal Pogues, who's a scrub. I mean, Mick Parkin is fighting every NPC heavyweight ever. Look, I'm going to take the undefeated guy. Mick Parkin, I think he has better hands. I think he has decent enough grappling. And he's significantly younger, 10 years younger. So I'm going to pick him to get it done. Nick Parkin doesn't really have KO power, despite the fact that he KO'd Lucas Dresky. Lucas Dresky doesn't really have a chin. Marcin Tybura is not particularly easy to KO. I know Tom Aspinall did it, but it's been a while since anybody else has done that, and I'm not even looking at his full resume right now. But I'm going to go Mick Parkin to get it done. I think he's just your typical average, run-of-the-mill NPC heavyweight, and he's a little bit younger than Marcin Tybura. I think Tybura is going to try to grapple. I don't think he's going to be super successful with the grappling. And I see Mick Parkin just landing better combinations on the feet, busting him up a bit, maybe even hurting Tybura, but not putting him away, not finishing him. And then come the late second round, third round, I think both guys are going to be relatively tired, sweating up a storm, plotting around. And I think Mick Parkin will be able to land the better shots and just defend the grappling of Marcin Tybura. So I'm going to go Mick Parkin via decision. Next fight on the card, we have Looney Kavanagh versus Felipe dos Santos. You know, this is actually a competitive fight. 8-0, Looney Kavanagh, but doesn't have the best wins. Jose Ocha decision, then Dana White's Contender Series where he got a KO. Before that, he was in Cage Warriors against really not great opposition, but not horrible. You know, 6-0, 4-0, 1-0. Then you have Felipe dos Santos, who's coming off a loss against Andrey Lima, where he lost that pretty clean. Before that, barely beat Victor Altamirano. Before that, got a participation trophy against Manel Kopp because he stepped in on short notice and had a competitive fight with him. And before that was fighting in LFA. They're both very good strikers. They both have finishing ability. I think Felipe dos Santos is undersized for the weight class. And I know there's nowhere else to go. It is flyweight. I think it's going to be very competitive on the feet. But I just favor Looney Kavanagh. I think he has really good striking. I think he can mix in the grappling. He's not a guy that gets taken down and controlled, even though he doesn't really have a lot of experience. But even so, Felipe dos Santos isn't a guy that goes in there and mixes in his grappling all that much. He has decent jiu-jitsu. He's shown decent jiu-jitsu. But I don't think he's going to be able to use it to beat Looney Kavanagh. I think Kavanagh goes out there, just edges him out in the striking, lands the better shots. I think it'll be a competitive fight, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I don't trust Felipe dos Santos. I feel like when he came in and he fought Manel Kopp on short notice, a top 10 ranked guy or top 15 ranked guy, I don't remember at the exact time what Kopp was ranked. He got a bit of a participation trophy. Oh my God, he had a competitive fight with Manel Kape, and he came in on short notice. Oh my, he must be amazing. And then we've seen since, Victor Altamirano barely wins there and then gets dominated by Andrey Lima. I don't know why I keep calling him Andrey Lima. So I think Looney Kavanagh will be able to get it done. I see him having the advantage in the striking, landing the better shots. I think it'll be a competitive fight. I think Felipe Dos Santos could have moments. He is dangerous on the feet. But I'm going to go Looney Kavanagh to get it done. I'm going to say via decision. Next fight on the card, I believe this is the featured prelim. We have Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. Oh, man, I feel like Jai Herbert is like criminally underrated. Almost finished Ilia Topuria. Not that I want to give him a participation trophy for that, but just something to mention. He's coming off a win over Rolando Bedoya. Won that pretty cleanly. Before that, lost to Ferziem. Look where Ferziem is headed. And before that, there was that majority decision against Ludovic Klein. I think it ended up being a draw. Before that, beat Kyle Nelson, which I think is a decent win. Before that, lost to Ilia Topuria, which he had Topuria hurt badly and almost finished him. I mean, that's the closest fight Topuria's been in his entire career. Chris Padilla coming off his UFC debut, or not his UFC debut, sorry, his second UFC fight against Zhang Rongzhu, where he landed a filthy elbow that just swelled up his eye. Doctor ended up stopping the fight. Before that, James Jan Top, rear naked choke win. I believe he stepped in on short notice for that fight. And then before that, he's not fighting the best opposition outside the UFC, but not horrible. I've been back and forth on this fight. I think this fight could go either way. Jai Herbert's a really slick striker, doesn't mix in the grappling all that much, but doesn't really get out-grappled all that much either, unless you're like a really solid grappler. Chris Padilla, I still don't know how truly good he is. He has decent striking. He is gritty. He does get off damaging shots, especially in the clinch. Did it with the elbows against Rongzhu. I don't know. This is like a 50-50 fight. Padilla's 29 years old, so 7 years younger than Jai Herbert. And I do think he has a power advantage. I was leaning Jai Herbert. What do I do, guys? I don't know if I've ever said this in a prediction video before. I'll go in, I'll make my predictions, kind of tentative predictions. I'll watch different fights and whatnot. And then when I go in the prediction video, sometimes I'll change my predictions. And I had Herbert picked, man. Every time I change my pick, I'm wrong. I've changed one other pick on this card, by the way. After it was a tentative pick, then I did research, I changed my pick. But I've been flipping and flopping back and forth on this one. I think this is a close competitive fight. I think it could go either way. But you know what? I'm going to go with the younger guy in Chris Padilla, and I'm going to pick him to get it done via decision. I think it's going to be a close, even maybe controversial 29-28 decision win. I just see him landing more damaging shots. He seems like a guy that maybe belonged in the UFC for a little bit, especially the lower barrier of entry nowadays. He got his opportunity. He wants to make the most of it. 2-fight winning streak. I'm going to say he gets it done against Jai Herbert in a very close, competitive, striking battle. And I could see Padilla maybe mixing in the clinch and doing damage and just wearing on Jai Herbert and those long, lanky arms. Jai Herbert does have a 3-inch reach advantage, a 3-inch or 4-inch height advantage. So I could see that come into play, but I think Padilla is going to pressure him well and land the more damaging shots. I'm going to go Chris Padilla, close 29-28 decision win. Next fight on the card, the first fight on the main card. And this is what I love about this fight card. There's a lot of very competitive, hard to pick fights. We have Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrière. Oh, man, I was high on Nathaniel Wood for a while, but I think Morgan Charrière is actually a really solid fighter, super well-rounded, has good grappling, has good striking, has decent power, has good movement. He's coming off a win over Gabriel Miranda, which Gabriel Miranda isn't good at all. And then before that, lost to Chepe Mariscal, who's an absolute dog and a savage, and that was a split decision in a fight I thought Charrière won. Before that, Manolo Zucchini. Before that, Cage Warriors, Diego Silva. Manolo Zucchini is not very good at all. And that was a year and a half ago. And Morgan Charrière's only beaten scrubs. He's not very proven in the UFC. And against Chepe, he's getting out-grappled a bit. Now, he did mix in his grappling towards the end and was able to out-grapple Chepe. But you have Nathaniel Wood, who's been around forever. He's fought decent opposition. He beat Daniel Pineda in his last fight, closer than it should have been. Before that, lost to Muhammad Naimov, but Muhammad Naimov cheated quite a bit in that fight. Before that, beat Andre Fili, close competitive fight there, got hurt badly, I think in the third round. Before that, beat Charles Jourdain. Before that, beat Charles Rosa. Been in the UFC for a bit. This is a very competitive fight between two young guys who have a decent amount of experience. I am going to go Morgan Charrière. I'm going to pick him to get it done. I'm just, I feel like Nathaniel Wood is one of those guys that got propped up from being from the UK. And I know Morgan Charrière is from the UK, but I don't even feel like there's as much hype or promise around him at all. I don't think people think he's all that good. But I think he's better than people give him credit for. And if you're having kind of a close fight with Daniel Pineda, where Daniel Pineda's having some moments, and you're losing to Muhammad Naimov, I think Charrière is better than those guys. So I'm going to pick Morgan Charrière, or is it Cherie? I'm going to pick Morgan Charrière to get it done. I'm going to say he wins via decision. Close fight. Both guys have their moments. I think Charrière rocks Nathaniel Wood, mixes in the grappling a little bit, ekes out some close rounds with some control time and some ground and pound. And I'm going to pick Morgan Charrière to get it done. I think Nathaniel Wood could get it done. This is a very tough pick. And this is actually great matchmaking by the UFC about time. I guess because it's not an Apex event. But I'm going to go Morgan Charrière to get it done over Nathaniel Wood via a close decision. I feel like I'm picking a lot of decisions on this card. I'm going to say a 29-28 decision win for Morgan Charrière. Next fight on the card, we have Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. I'm going to go Jordan Vucenic. He showed me a lot. Like, he looked very, very good on, I believe, short notice against Guram Kutateladze. Hurt him in the first round, showed excellent grappling in the fight, showed good striking in the fight as well. I know the guys he's beat prior to the UFC, 12-8, 10-4, 13-8, aren't the best prospects. But Chris Duncan, I don't think he's that great on the feet. I think he relies a little bit too much on the grappling. And I don't think he's going to be able to take Vucenic down and control him. I don't see that happening. Guram had a lot of trouble taking him down. There was good scrambles from Vucenic up until he really got tired later on. This was a very close fight. It was 1-1 going into the third round. Guram kind of sealed it with his grappling towards the end. I don't think Chris Duncan's as strong as someone like Guram Kutateladze. I think Chris Duncan has really good jiu-jitsu. I don't see him finding a submission against Vucenic. I think Vucenic's really, really solid, has good leg kicks, good striking attack, just a decent, well-rounded fighter. And I'm looking at Chris Duncan. Okay, he beat Balagioki, where he choked him out and the ref didn't even know it. Before that, got submitted by Manel Torres, got hurt on the feet. Before, beat Yanal Ashmus. Before, split decision to Omar Morales. I don't think Chris Duncan is good enough on the feet. I think it'll be competitive enough. But I think Duncan's definitely going to want to grapple, and I wouldn't bank on Duncan being able to get takedowns and solidify control time. Now, Duncan is decent on the feet. Don't get me wrong. He has a KO win against Charlie Campbell, who's in the UFC now. But I think Vucenic, from what I've seen from Vucenic against Guram Kutateladze, I do believe he'll have a striking advantage. I do believe he will be chopping that lead leg of Chris Duncan. And I think he'll land the better shots on the feet, and I think he'll win this fight. Matter of fact, I'm going to pick him to finish Chris Duncan. I think Vucenic's going to be one of those guys, loses his UFC debut, knows this second fight is a must-win, comes in, looks for a finish, looks to impress, and he gets it done against Chris Duncan. So I'm going to go Jordan Vucenic to get it done. I could even see him subbing Chris Duncan. I could see him hurting him, snatching up a rear naked choke, similar to what Manel Torres did. So I'm going to go Jordan Vucenic to get it done. I'm going to say second round KO. I'm going to pick him to get the finish over Chris Duncan. I just think he's better on the feet, and I think his takedown defense is good enough where Duncan really won't be able to implement his game enough to open up the striking for Duncan because he is at a disadvantage. So I'm going Vucenic, second round TKO. Next fight on the card, we have Molly McCann versus Alexia Thainara, I believe is how you pronounce it. I feel like every time I pick against Molly McCann, she wins. Every time I pick her, she loses. But I'm going to be honest, I think Molly McCann's a straight up scrub. Lost her last fight against Bruno Brazil. Got outclassed. Before that, beat Diana Belbitz. Somehow got an armbar. You get submitted by Molly McCann, you might as well quit. Before that, got subbed by Julia Stolarenko. Jumped into an armbar. Defended it horribly. Before that, lost to Erin Blanchfield. Before that, beat Hannah Goldie. Molly McCann has only beat scrubs. She's 34 years old. She's been in the UFC forever. She has horrible grappling. She just marches forward and looks for big bombs and KOs. Where you have Alexia Thainara, primarily a grappler. I think has 6 submission wins where Molly McCann has 3 submission losses. And she also is a decent striker as well. She looked good on Dana White's Contender Series against someone who isn't that great but was 7-0. So I think Alexia Thainara will go out there, be able to avoid the KO shot against Molly McCann, and that's all you have to do against Molly McCann. Don't get KO'd. It's crazy in women's MMA to say don't get KO'd. But essentially that's what Thainara has to do, not get KO'd. She has really good shots, and I noticed on her Dana White's Contender Series fight, her best shots were really good time shots in the open of the octagon. And guess what Molly McCann does? She rushes forward with no regard for anything, slinging big, wild haymakers, perfect for Thainara to duck under them and shoot a double leg or clinch up with her and trip her to the ground and then eventually find a sub. I could see Thainara getting a submission. I could see her getting a submission. You know what? Matter of fact, I'm going to pick Thainara to sub her. How am I going to pick her to sub her? I'm going to say rear naked choke. I'm going to say she gets her down. Molly McCann rushes to try to get up. And I'm going to say Thainara jumps on her back, latches up a rear naked choke. I'm going to pick Alexia Thainara, 2nd round rear naked choke over Molly McCann. I just don't trust Molly McCann, especially at an advanced age, 34 years old, been in the UFC for like 10 years at this point. I don't know what the exact number is. 7-year youth advantage for Thainara, plus a grappling advantage and submission advantage and jiu-jitsu advantage. I'm picking Thainara to get it done. Molly McCann's beaten Hannah Goldie and Diana Belbitsa. I didn't even think she would beat Diana Belbitsa, but Diana Belbitsa isn't good. I think Thainara is better than both them. 11-1, hasn't lost in a while. I'm going Alexia Thainara. 2nd round rear naked choke over Molly McCann. Next fight on the card, the featured fight on the card. We have Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. If you watch my channel at all, you know exactly who I'm picking in this fight. Kevin Holland has lost 4 out of his last 5. And somehow he keeps ending up on main cards. Fight night main cards, pay-per-view main cards. His last fight looked like an absolute scrub against Rainer De Ritter, gets submitted easily. Begged Rainer De Ritter, please don't grapple early. Please don't grapple Rainer De Ritter. And then gets submitted easily. Has no jiu-jitsu, hasn't evolved, has no grappling. Kevin Holland sucks. Fight before that. Quit against Roman Dolidze. Rib injury. Quit. Before that, beat Michele Lachecek. And Michele Lachecek got armbarred after he hurt Kevin Holland. And it wasn't even a real armbar because apparently he's double jointed. He can pop his elbow back in and out. Something along those lines. Wasn't even a real injury. Before that, lost to Michael Venom Page. Even got out-grappled by Michael Venom Page a little bit in that fight. Before that, lost to Jack Della Maddalena. No shame in that. Kevin Holland can't grapple worth a shit. He can't stuff takedowns. He can't avoid submissions. Khamzat Chimaev ran through him like a bitch. Took him down easily, submitted him. People keep saying, man, Kevin Holland's getting better, man. Joe Rogan's like, man, if Kevin Holland took things seriously, he could be champion, man. 45-70, man. Kevin Holland is not good. I repeat, Kevin Holland is not good. Okay? I don't care about 45-70. He's not good. He has decent striking, decent KO ability. His grappling is shit. His takedown defense is shit. His jiu-jitsu is shit. He's only beaten the dead bodies. He has a win a while ago against Michael Chiesa, which I actually picked him to win by sub. But Chiesa's a scrub, too slow, too old. Gunnar Nelson, now he's been inactive. He hasn't fought in 2 years. He last submitted Brian Barberine in the first round, easily dominated him, took him down, subbed him via armbar. Fight before that, beat Takashi Sato, out-grappled him. Fight before that, lost to Gilbert Burns. Fight before that, lost to Leon Edwards via split decision. Now, Gunnar Nelson at one point in time was kind of like Conor McGregor's groupie. He kind of got hyped up off Conor McGregor. But Gunnar has always had a really sound ground game and submission ability. His striking isn't great, but it's not horrible. And it's not like Kevin Holland, some world-class elite-level kickboxer. He has decent striking. He does have a massive reach advantage in this fight, which is insane. He has a 9-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage. So I do worry about Gunnar Nelson getting clipped on the end of like a right hand from Kevin Holland and getting rocked. But even so, if Kevin Holland jumps down in his guard, I could see Gunnar Nelson subbing him. I think Gunnar Nelson's too good on the ground. I think he'll find a submission. I think he'll be able to take Kevin Holland down, beat him up, control him, and find a sub. I'm going to pick Gunnar Nelson late first round submission. How is he going to get it? I'm going to say arm triangle. I'm going to pick Gunnar Nelson to get it done via arm triangle in the first round. Takes him down, beats him up, softens him up, locks in an arm triangle. Maybe gets the mount. Does some damage from mount with some elbows. Kevin Holland's trying to flail out. Boom. Gunnar Nelson locks up an arm triangle. I'm picking Gunnar Nelson to get it done. I don't trust Kevin Holland's grappling at all. I don't trust his jiu-jitsu defense. I don't trust anything about Kevin Holland on the ground. He's not improved at all in the last 5 years. I don't think he belongs on the main card. I don't believe he belongs as a featured fight. I don't believe he belongs on a pay-per-view. Yeah, Joey, tell me how you really feel about Kevin Holland. Someone's going to comment that. I'm picking Gunnar Nelson first round submission. Whether it's a triangle, whether it's an arm bar, whether it's an arm triangle, whether it's a guillotine, whether it's a rear naked choke, Gunnar Nelson will sub him. Whether it's the first or second round, Gunnar Nelson will sub him unless he gets clipped badly early with a big shot. I do worry about the long layoff. I do worry about the inconsistency of Gunnar Nelson, but Kevin Holland just shows up for paychecks. He's a quitter. Give him an opportunity, he'll quit. Kevin Holland unranked, moving down a division on a losing streak. Let's give him Wonderboy Thompson to get him ranked in the top 10 of welterweight. Old Wonderboy Thompson on a losing streak. Oh, he'll quit on the stool. So another big opportunity for Kevin Holland because he's Dana White's friend and has Dana White privilege. Gunnar Nelson will sub him in the first round, just like Rainer de Ritter. If I'm Gunnar Nelson, the second I got offered Kevin Holland, I'd be licking my lips and signing the contract because I would know I had an easy matchup. So Gunnar Nelson, first round sub. Next fight on the card, we have the co-main event. Jan Błachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Listen, I got to be honest. Jan Błachowicz for years and years and years has been criminally underrated a bit by a lot of the MMA fan base. Everyone was picking Israel Adesanya to beat him. I picked Jan Błachowicz. A lot of people were picking Alex Pereira to beat him. I picked Jan Błachowicz. He got robbed in that fight. Now, he's been super inactive. His last fight was Alex Pereira over a year and a half ago. He lost that fight. I thought he won. He lost via split decision. I thought he clearly won round one, dominated him in the grappling. Third round, he won. Got robbed a bit. Before that, he went to a split draw with Magomed Ankalaev, the current champion. Before that, he beat Alexander Rakic. Now, it's crazy because all three of these fights are controversial against the elite of the elite. Rakic was starting to build his momentum, gets injured. Now, I partially give Jan credit for causing that injury with some of the leg kicks, but you don't really know. You don't fully know. The Magomed Ankalaev fight, he wins arguably the first 2 rounds, wins arguably the first 3 rounds, loses 4 and 5, 5 he gets 10-8. Now, I still thought the first round Ankalaev won. It wasn't the most brutal robbery, but I thought it was a bit of a robbery for Ankalaev. But either way, Ankalaev is the current champion. So Jan, to go to a competitive decision, even if he lost, is still good. And then the Alex Pereira fight, I thought he was robbed. But Jan's old, man. He's 42 years old. At some point, the Polish power isn't going to be enough anymore. Multiple surgeries. I think he had shoulder surgeries or neck surgeries. Carlos Ulberg is 34, but has a lot less miles on him. I mean, Jan Błachowicz 29-10. Carlos Ulberg 12-1. There's a lot less mileage overall on both of them. And Carlos Ulberg's been decently active. Fought 3 months ago against Volkan Ozdemir. Won that fight. Before that, KO'd Alonzo Menefield. Before that, submitted Dawoon Jung, which honestly was far too competitive. Made me think Carlos Ulberg's not that good. Before that, KO'd Ihor Potieria. Before that, beat Nicolau Negamoriano. And that's in the last 2.5 years. And meanwhile, Jan Błachowicz hasn't won a fight since Rakic 3 years ago. So since Jan won his last fight, you have Ulberg winning 5 straight fights. Look, this is 2 years ago, open and shut case Jan Błachowicz. Nasty leg kicks, shins of steel, nasty power, really solid striking, decent anti-defensive grappling and decent offensive grappling. But it's not 2 years ago. He's now 42, coming back from a 2-year layoff against a guy on a crazy win streak who looks very, very good on the feet, super athletic, is decently well-rounded, has KO power. Look, Jan has a very good chin, so I don't see Ulberg putting him out. But I think you have to go with the younger fighter here, especially off a long layoff. If there was more time, or if there was less time since Jan's last fight, even if he lost, because again, I thought he beat Alex Pereira, who just lost the belt, I would probably pick Jan to abuse those legs. Ulberg does get hit. against, I forgot his name that quick. Against Jung, he was taking some clean shots on the chin. Ulberg's striking isn't as polished as sometimes it looks because he's fighting lower level guys, but Ulberg's getting better with each fight. He beat Volkan Ozdemir, who I think is a solid win. That fight was more competitive than it probably should have. He's getting his biggest test to date, but I just think this is, I've been waiting for a long time for Jan to decline, and I think this is the moment. Too many surgeries, too long a layoff, too advanced age. I think Carlos Ulberg gets it done against Jan Błachowicz in the co-main event. I don't think he puts him out, though. Jan's super durable. He has nasty body kicks. I'll never forget him lighting up Dominic Reyes. At that point, Dominic Reyes was like the uncrowned champ coming off that controversial loss to Johnny Bones Jones. And Jan went out there and beat the brakes off of him. If it was the same Jan, I'm picking him 10 times out of 10 against Carlos Ulberg. But it's just simply not. Ulberg's younger, faster, more athletic. And it's not like Ulberg has a glaring hole in his game. I do worry about his chin being up in the air and Jan's legendary Polish power, but I think Jan's going to be significantly slower. So I think reaction time will make up for the deficiencies in his defensive responsibility. So I'm going to go Carlos Ulberg to get it done via decision against Jan Błachowicz. Next fight on the card, we have Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Both of Bilal Muhammad's sons. I don't know why I butchered that right there. I've been going back and forth on this fight, boys. I've really been going back and forth. Originally, I was thinking, man, Sean Brady's going to ragdoll him and submit him. Because Sean Brady has really good grappling, but he also has better jiu-jitsu than someone like Bilal Muhammad. So if Sean Brady gets the back, I can see Sean Brady latching up a rear naked choke. But I'm going to be honest. I'm watching back that Gilbert Burns fight, and it was a lot more competitive than people make it out to be. It was a lot closer than people make it out to be. And Gilbert was engaging in the clinch work, engaging in the grappling. Leon is a lanky striker who likes to pick you apart from the outside. And I don't think Brady has the ability to pressure with his striking as much as someone like Bilal Muhammad. Bilal did it to Sean Brady, walked Sean Brady down, beat the shit out of him, and TKO'd him. He did the same to Leon Edwards, dumped him on his bald spot. I think Sean Brady doesn't have the striking nor the pressure to have the same success with the takedowns against Leon Edwards. You look at Leon Edwards, prepared for Bilal. I know he got out-grappled by Bilal, but prepared for Bilal. Before that, prepared for Colby Covington. Before that, prepared for Kamaru Usman twice. He's been preparing for a grappler each and every fight for the last 3 years. Last time he fought a non-wrestler was 3.5 years ago, over 3.5 years ago, against Nate Diaz. Sean Brady beating old Gilbert Burns, beating Kelvin Gastelum, pudgy Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin did decent with the takedown defense early. And what I think it comes down to is Leon Edwards is really good striking at range and managing distance. And I don't know if Brady has the pressure and cardio to walk him down and just grapple him nonstop like Bilal did. Don't get me wrong. Brady has shown significant cardio improvements since that Michael Chiesa fight where he lost the third round because of his cardio. He went 5 rounds with Gilbert Burns in his last fight. And he grappled a lot and he didn't really get tired. But I just think it's going to be harder because Leon's not going to be willing to engage in the grappling. And also, there is the X factor. This fight was thrown together on about a month's notice. A decent amount of time, but originally Leon's preparing for JDM. Originally, Sean Brady's not preparing for anyone. Now he's flying out to London. A month training camp. I don't know what shape he was in 4 weeks ago. That makes me think, okay, I lean Leon Edwards' advantage in that case. Especially considering Leon Edwards trained for nothing but grapplers in his last 4 fights up until the JDM fight. So a month out to fight Sean Brady, and we know Leon was already training. I had Sean Brady locked in. I was like, you know what? Sean Brady's going to sub him. I think Sean Brady's a really good grappler, has really good jiu-jitsu. And if he gets him in the same, let me put it this way. If Sean Brady gets Leon in the positions that Bilal was getting Leon in, aka taking his back, blowing out his back, picking him up, dumping him on his bald spot, I think Sean Brady will eventually find a sub. But I think Leon will manage the distance. He doesn't have the 5 a.m. start time to complain about. Maybe he doesn't have the back injuries. And I just don't see Sean. I think Sean Brady will get discouraged. he strikes me as a guy kind of like Leon. When the momentum isn't going his way, he gets kind of bullied. Look what Bilal did to him. Started going downhill, just bullying him. And I don't know if Sean Brady has that coach in his corner that'll be like, don't let him bully you, son. Leon has that. His coach will be in his corner. Dave Lavelle will be like, don't let him bully you, son. Don't let him drop you on your bald spot, son. I'm going to go Leon Edwards. And I think what it's going to come down to is Leon managing the distance. Because if you don't engage Sean Brady in the clinch, if you don't engage him close in the grappling, it's harder for Brady to find those takedowns. His wrestling isn't as good, in my opinion, as someone like Bilal, but also the way Bilal pressured and used his striking to set up the takedowns, I don't think Brady's as good. And I don't think, if you put it on a scale, of 0% to 100%, like the pressure Bilal's putting on guys is like 100%, and then he shoots into the takedowns. Brady doesn't have cardio to do that. Brady's like maybe 60, 75%, if that makes sense. And pressuring Leon up against the fence, backing Leon up, is what sets up a lot of the takedowns. If you end up clinched up with Leon against the fence, he has better takedown defense there. And also, I don't think Brady really grappling hard against Leon Edwards. For 5 rounds, I think Brady will start to slow down. We know Leon can go 5 rounds. He even had that moment in the 5th round against Bilal where he landed one elbow and people acted like that was a symbolic victory. So I'm going to pick Leon Edwards to strike from the outside. There'll be moments where he's controlled up against the fence, but I think he's working on that. I think he'll be able to exit well. I don't think he's completely washed up. And I think Sean Brady will probably use short notice as a bit of an excuse. I don't see him coming out with like a litany of excuses, but I'm going to pick Leon Edwards to get it done. I think Leon will come in with a good game plan. He'll attack the body of Sean Brady to wear on that gas tank, to wear on that cardio, especially knowing Brady's had issues with that in the past. Now he's coming in on a month's notice. Teep into the body, pumping the jab, and keeping the distance. Because Brady isn't as explosive, doesn't have that pressure to be able to just march him down and take him down, at least in my opinion. He's able to do it against Kelvin Gastelum. I don't think he's doing it against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards' reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage. It's only an 1.5-inch reach advantage, but Leon's the far superior striker as well. Now, I know Leon's not a finisher, so I'm going to pick Leon to get it done via decision. I'm going to say 49-46 decision win for Leon Edwards. I'll know early, because Brady's going to shoot takedowns in the first round. So I'll know early how this fight's going to go, because 10 seconds in to Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, I was confident in Bilal. I knew right away, that double leg right away where he picked him up and dumped him down. I knew right then and there it was a wrap, man. So I'll know early in this fight how it's going to go. I'll be live streaming this entire event. If you care to join me, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. But I'm picking Leon Edwards to get it done in kind of a striking, slower paced fight where Sean Brady's getting his nose busted up. He's bleeding, his eyes a little bit busted up, but he's not taking crazy damage as he tries to kind of rush in and look for the takedowns. And then as it's not going his way, I see Brady getting a little bit deflated and maybe quitting mid-fight. Not completely quitting, but like getting a little bit less urgent on the takedowns and just more fighting to survive rather than fighting to find a takedown and find a finish. So I'm picking Leon Edwards to get it done via decision. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.